The Strait of Hormuz is usually described as a line on a map, a narrow passage between Iran, Oman, and the Gulf beyond. But from the water, it feels like something else entirely. Tankers move through dust and haze. Fishing boats cut across the same currents. Islands rise from the sea, some covered in red earth. Others guarded by missiles, coral reefs, old forts, and villages that still live by the tide. Every day, the world's energy supply passes through this corridor. Oil, gas, cargo, warships, rumors. And beneath it all, another Hormuz exists. One of mangrove forests and salt caves, of corals surviving in water hot enough to kill reefs elsewhere, of disputed islands, forgotten languages, military outposts, poor port cities, and coastlines that have watched empires come and go. This is not just the world's most dangerous strait. It is a place where geography becomes power, where ordinary people live beside global tension, and where a few miles of water can make the whole world hold its breath. Today, we journey through its hidden. Strait of Hormuz. Between Iran to the north and Oman's Musandam Peninsula to the south, the sea narrows into one of the most important passages on Earth. This is the Strait of Hormuz. It connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman, and beyond that to the open ocean. On a map, it looks small, almost easy to miss. But for the countries inside the Gulf, it is the only maritime exit. No second door, no wide escape route. Just this thin band of water. The strait runs for about 104 miles, but its real power is in the narrowest point, where the distance shrinks to roughly 24 miles. Even that number does not tell the whole story. The actual shipping lanes are much smaller. One lane for ships going in, one for ships going out, each only about 2 miles wide, separated by a thin buffer. Through those lanes pass some of the largest energy vessels on the planet. Oil tankers, LNG carriers, cargo ships, naval patrols, fishing boats. In ordinary times, around 135 ships move in and out each day. Many carry the fuel that keeps factories running, aircraft flying, cities lit, and economies breathing. During recent years, about a quarter of the world's seaborne oil trade and a fifth of its LNG passed through this passage. And yet, the voyage itself can feel strangely intimate. land stays visible. The air is often dusty. Morning haze blurs the horizon. Small fishing boats move near tankers that rise like floating buildings. Iran is always present to the north. Oman guards the southern edge. The strait does not need to close completely to frighten the world, a mine threat. A seized tanker, a radio warning, a missile battery on an island. A rumor that insurers believe. Sometimes uncertainty is enough. Here, geography does not merely shape trade, it holds it by the throat. Coral reefs of Hormuz. Beneath the tankers, beneath the naval routes, beneath the surface tension of the strait, another world survives. Coral, not soft, sheltered coral growing in gentle water, but coral living near the edge of what marine life can endure. The Persian Gulf is shallow, semi-enclosed, highly salty, and brutally hot. In summer, surface temperatures can push beyond 36 degrees Celsius, far past the point where many tropical corals elsewhere begin to bleach and die. But the corals around Hormuz have adapted over thousands of years. They learned to live with heat, salinity, and violent seasonal swings. Scientists study them because they may carry clues to how reefs elsewhere could survive a warmer world. They're not untouched sanctuaries. They are survivors. Around the islands of the strait, coral reefs shelter marine life in water that also carries oil tankers, military vessels, industrial waste, plastic, chemical pollution, and the noise of engines and sonar. Dolphins and porpoises depend on sound to navigate and communicate. In Hormuz, the water itself is crowded with human machinery. Near Larak Island, reef damage became visible in 2019, when military dock construction shattered a large coral population and left pieces stranded on shore. But when researchers returned in 2022, small coral colonies had begun to appear again, a quiet return. The waters also support dugongs near seagrass beds, and whale sharks move through the same channels used by tankers. These animals do not understand shipping lanes. They follow food, current, and instinct. Above them, countries calculate risk. Below them, life keeps trying. Abu Musa Island. Farther into the Persian Gulf, near the entrance to Hormuz, Abu Musa rises low from the water, only about 12.8 square kilometers. Flat, sandy, compact, small enough to seem minor. it is not. Abu Musa sits near deepwater lanes where oil tankers and large ships must pass between it and the greater and lesser Tunbs. For that reason, the island has become one of the most sensitive pieces of land in the Gulf. Iran administers it as part of Hormozgan province. The United Arab Emirates claims it through Sharjah. The dispute did not begin yesterday. In 1904, Iranian authorities replaced a local Trucial States flag with an Iranian one, drawing British opposition. Decades later, as Britain prepared to leave the Gulf, Iran and Sharjah signed a 1971 agreement. It allowed Iranian troops on part of the island while Sharjah kept jurisdiction over the rest. The agreement solved nothing permanently. It even said the quiet part clearly. Neither side gave up its claim. By 1992, Iran had taken de facto control of the whole island, citing security concerns. Over time, the military footprint grew. Hundreds of Iranian personnel became thousands. Missiles were deployed. Abu Musa became less like a remote island and more like a forward post. But people still live there. There are schools, mosques, electricity, desalinated water, farms, an airport, an infirmary, and links to Bandar Abbas. Fishing remains part of daily life. Its older identity was rougher and more maritime. Pirates, smugglers, pearl divers, herders, red oxide pits, and sailors seeking refuge from storms. A disputed island with ordinary homes. A civilian place wrapped in military purpose. Larak Island. East of Cheosham and south of Hormuz Island, Larak sits directly inside the throat of the strait. The narrowest part of Hormuz lies between Larak and Oman's Great Quoin Island. From here, the waterway feels less like open sea and more like a corridor watched from both sides. Larak is a salt plug island of sandstone, rock salt, and iron oxide. Its hills rise to about 138 meters. Its land looks dry, stripped, and quiet. The only current settlement is Larak Shahri on the northeastern coast. Older settlements in the hills and along other shores have been abandoned. The island's language tells its own story. Many locals speak Laraki, a dialect of Kumzari, connecting Larak to the older maritime cultures of the strait. Life here is modest: fishing, goat husbandry, some trade. In the past, dates, barley, and salt. One account describes transport on the island as only a few motorcycles with a single village shop for necessities. But Larak's quiet surface hides one of the region's harder histories. the Portuguese built here in the 16th century. Later, British, Dutch, Omani, Safavid, and local powers all moved through its story. During the Iran-Iraq War, after Iraq attacked Iran's main oil export terminal at Karg Island, Iran opened a floating oil export terminal at Larak in 1986. Then the war reached the island. Iraq bombed Larak in November 1986. An oil transfer site was destroyed in 1987. In April 1988, during Operation Praying Mantis, the Iranian frigate Sahand was sunk by the US Navy just southwest of Larak. A month later, the Seawise Giant, then the largest ship in the world, was struck by Iraqi anti-ship missiles off the island while carrying Iranian crude. Today, Larak remains tied to Iranian military infrastructure, including missile and air defense sites. A small island, a narrow sea, a history written in fire and oil. Musandam Peninsula. Across the water, the southern wall of Hormuz rises from the sea. This is Musandam, a mountainous northeastern extension of the Arabian Peninsula, separated from the rest of Oman by the United Arab Emirates. Politically, most of it belongs to Oman, while parts are tied to the UAE, including Ras Al Khaimah and areas near Dibba. Geographically, it feels carved for isolation. The northern mountains are called Ru'us al-Jibal, the capes of the mountains. Limestone cliffs plunge into blue water, coastal inlets cut deep into the land. Outsiders typically call them fjords, but they are not glacial. They are drowned valleys shaped by tectonic motion and swallowed by the sea. Musandam helps make Hormuz what it is. The peninsula juts northward like a crooked finger, forcing the waterway into a narrow passage facing Iran. On one side, Iranian islands and coastline. On the other, Omani cliffs and fishing villages. The land has its own hidden human map. The Shehu tribe has long inhabited the mountains. Their stone lock houses, built into crevices and overhangs, were made for a place of heat, winter chill, and difficult terrain. In Kumzar, a remote northern fishing village, people speak Kumzari, an unwritten language shaped by Iranian roots and loanwords from Arabic, Portuguese, Hindi, and English. Some settlements can only be reached by traditional wooden dhows. Kasab, the main town, has watched ships for centuries. The Portuguese captured key areas of the Omani coast in 1507 and used Kasab as a supply point for dates and fresh water. Today, the same waters hold dolphins, eagle rays, whale sharks, coral reefs, and seabirds. a sleepy coast beside a global artery. The cliffs are quiet, the ships are not. Bandar Abbas. North of the strait on Iran's southern coast, Bandar Abbas looks toward the Gulf. It should have been a symbol of maritime wealth. Hormozgan province has around 1,000 kilometers of coastline and 14 islands. It sits above one of the most strategic waterways in the world. More than 55% of Iran's imports and exports pass through Bandar Abbas, and the province holds major free trade zones, fishing industries, and port infrastructure. Yet behind the port lies another story. Poverty, migration, unsafe housing, decayed neighborhoods. Families living on the margins of a city tied to global trade. Bandar Abbas was once planned as Iran's safer Gulf hub. In the 1970s, Abadan and Khorramshahr were vulnerable because of their proximity to Iraq. So Tehran looked south and east. Bandar Abbas and positioned near Hormuz. Then revolution interrupted construction. War resumed its urgency. During the Iran-Iraq War, when Western Iran was consumed by conflict, Bandar Abbas became vital. The first terminal opened in 1984, and the port carried much of the burden of keeping Iran connected to the outside world. But development did not heal the city. Nearly half its population lives in decayed urban areas or unauthorized dwellings. Across Hormozgan, around 400,000 people live on the margins. Migration keeps feeding the pressure. Many arrive looking for work in a province that appears economically active, only to end up in crowded neighborhoods with fragile services. There is culture here too. Night beaches, shark and squid samosas, spiced tea, Bandari clothing, henna designs, goat kebabs, fish sauces, traditional coffee houses. The hidden side of Hormuz is not only on the water, it is also in the port city that carries the weight of trade without receiving its promise. Hormuz Island. Not far from Bandar Abbas, the island that gave the strait its name rises from the Gulf. Hormuz Island is small, about 42 square kilometers, and only a few miles from Iran's coast, but it feels older than its size. Its colors appear first: red earth, white salt, Purple hills, yellow stone, glittering sand, mineral layers folded across beaches and valleys. This is why many call it Rainbow Island. But the colors are not decoration, they are geology. Hormuz is a salt diapir formed from ancient sea salt deposits that pushed upward under pressure and slowly broke through the surface. Its geological age is estimated at around 600 million years, though it rose from the water far more recently. The red ochre soil, called golak, is used for art and food. Locals use the mineral earth in sauces, bread, and fish dishes. When rain carries iron-rich dust into the sea, the shoreline can turn red, as if the island is bleeding into the water. The island also carries human memory. Stone tools found along its eastern shore date back more than 40,000 years. In medieval times, Hormuz became tied to maritime trade and tribute. Around 1300, the ruler of Hormuz moved his residence from the mainland to the island to escape attacks from the interior. Then came Portugal. In 1507, Afonso de Albuquerque captured Hormuz. The Portuguese built the fort of Our Lady of the Conception and used the island as a stopover for ships moving between the Gulf, India, and beyond. After the Portuguese were expelled in 1622, Shah Abbas turned attention to the mainland port that became Bandar Abbas. Hormuz declined. Fishermen remained. The old trade center became quieter. Today, mangroves survive in tidal salt water. Birds gather and artists work among red walls and painted streets. An island of color, an old gate to the Gulf. A place where earth, trade, and empire still stain the shore. Keshem Island. West of Hormuz Island, the land widens into Keshem. Long, dry, and unlike much of mainland Iran, Keshem sits in the Strait of Hormuz, with Oman sometimes visible on a clear day. Its culture carries a Gulf rhythm, Sunni communities, fishing villages, painted dhows, wind catchers, local embroidery, homestays, courtyards, and markets full of fish. It is not one landscape, it is several. Near the coast, the Hara mangrove forest rises and disappears with the tide. At high water, the trees seem to float. At low water, roots and mudflats return. The forest is dominated by Avicennia marina, a tree that survives in salty seawater through natural filtration. In a dry region, the mangroves do what cities struggle to do: pull life from salt. The protected area allows limited fishing, tourist boats, and controlled cutting for animal feed. It is not untouched. It is managed, used, and still alive. Birds come through in autumn and winter. Herons, pelicans, flamingos, sea snakes feed and reproduce in the channels. Green turtles use the wider habitat. Farther inland, the island turns to stone. Chaku Canyon cuts through the dry land in deep gorges shaped by water and wind. It was once called the Holy Valley because rainwater gathered there, precious enough to feel sacred. In some passages, the canyon narrows until the body has to turn sideways. Nearby, Namak salt caves stretch underground, their walls patterned with salt and minerals. The Valley of Stars rises closer to Keshem City, where water carved twisted pillars, holes, and narrow corridors from soft earth. Keshem's secret is contrast, a dry island with floating forests, a harsh coast with village courtyards, a place beside the world's busiest energy corridor, where people still sit on daybeds, cook fish, watch dhows move through shallow water, and live by rhythms older than the tankers offshore. As evening settles over the Gulf, the water begins to change. The tankers keep moving. The fishing boats return toward shore. Lights flicker along Bandar Abbas, across Keshem near Larak, and beyond the cliffs of Musandam. From above, the strait still looks small. A narrow blue line between mountains, islands, ports, and desert. But inside that line sits a whole world. Coral reefs fighting to survive beneath the noise. Villages holding on to old languages and old trades. Islands claimed, armed, remembered, and lived on. Port cities carrying the weight of commerce without always sharing in its wealth. Hormuz is not only a route for oil, it is a crossroads of empire, ecology, poverty, danger, and endurance. And as long as the world depends on what moves through this water, the Strait of Hormuz will remain more than a passage. It will remain a warning. A reminder that sometimes the smallest places on the map carry the heaviest weight. If this journey helped you see Hormuz differently, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who enjoys hidden geography, and subscribe for more stories from the world's most extraordinary places. See you in the next journey.